For what?
For coming on with me, brother.
Oh, that's all right. If I've got time, I can do it, man, you know?
And hey, everybody, Slightly Slanted Sleuth coming at you from the lair in Oakdale, Minnesota, where it's finally cooled off. And I'm joined today with Phil Langdon. And Phil, I'm glad you're back here with us. Phil's a enlightened brother that has been illuminated for, what was it, 5 years now?
It's 4.5 years now.
4.5 years. And by all my research that I've done on turning over rocks everywhere, his information tends to match and ring true and resonate with me. I can't verify it 100%, but you know, with me, I think Phil is number one, 100% on the level. And I appreciate you coming on with us today, Phil. How are you doing, buddy?
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you. I'm very well. A little hot, but I'm okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, it's been so long, and you know, life gets busy, especially in the summertime for us, does it?
Yeah, not? Sure. Yeah. I'm covering so many people who are going on holiday at work, you know, so I'm hardly ever in.
Right. And so, is there any specific thing you'd like to address right off the bat that maybe you've noticed us talking about on the tube or in society, or is there anything that you would like us to discuss first?
I mean, maybe it's a good time to bring up the idea that some people will say, you know, there's different mindsets in the world. Some people are naturally skeptical. Some people just fall for anything. You know, there's two extremes and you've got everything in between. And I found that a lot of skeptical people, when it comes to enlightenment or anything like that, will say things like, you can't know the truth because it's never ending, it's ineffable, you know, it's unknowable. There are quotes from religious books that say you can't know it fully because of the unending nature of it. But the mediocrity of today's world has forgotten the triplet situation that is involved with infinity or unity. And it's really important to realize that unity or infinity, because they're one and the same thing, have two opposite extremes as well. One of them is the infinite expansive concept, and the other is the singular pointed concept. And the pointedness of it is absolute definition, whereas the expansive nature of it is the ineffable. It's this undefined in every single way, shape, and form. I associate these two with love and truth. You know, love is undefined, but truth is perfect definition. And so they're one and the same thing, but they're two opposite extremes of the same issue. So if truth is pointed in definition, it means you can know it. So a lot of people come onto my videos, for instance, and say, Phil, it's impossible to know the truth. Why are you pretending to know this sort of thing? You know, and they haven't got there. It's really difficult being in a position when you get there and you hear other people who haven't got there telling you can't get there, and yet you're already there. You know,
right.
It's so weird to just hear that coming at you and just think, no. Can you not tell? Oh, I see. Yeah.
By your very nature of your response, how you smile and how you're at ease with it shows me that you're there. You know? Right.
There's a very simple analogy for it in that I watch a lot of interesting programs, and one of them is Cesar Millan, a dog trainer or a dog whisperer, and his relationship with the dog is that he's in control, therefore the dog can relax. See, when you understand truth, which is what we call God, who is your true self, when you understand that and actually unify with it and have a relationship with it, you can relax. As if you're a dog and it's your owner. It's the same sort of thing, you know.
Hey, maybe that's another. Oh, sorry. Maybe that's another reason why Sirius is the dog star, and it's you know, that correlation to Orion, huh?
You might have a point there, man. You might.
I'm just kidding. I was kidding.
I know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. That's the thing. You know, when you get there, you completely relax. So there's no stress involved with it, and there's no need to fight for it because it's true anyway. You know, it doesn't matter what people say or what people do. It's almost like watching a storm in a teacup. You know, and you're sitting away from the teacup, and they're in the storm in that little teacup, and you know they haven't quite understood the truth. Doesn't care what you think. It's going to be true anyway, so you can relax. Just find out what it is. You don't need to come up with opinions, as it were. You understand the difference there?
Right. Is that how you came to know the truth? Is by just utterly seeking it out intensively through your life, or?
Yeah. I was always asking the question, what is the best? So in every single experience and encounter since I was, about 10 years old, I would be thinking to myself, what is the best of that? What's the best of this? So when I encountered rock music, for instance, my immediate thought was, well, what are the best bands then? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And with movies, what's an A movie? I don't want to watch a B movie. I want to see an A movie. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's that kind of mentality that just constantly wants the best, and the best is literally like climbing a mountain, because the best is at the top. So you look for this and you think, oh, that's the best of that, right? And after a while you think, oh, there's something new over there. Look, what's the best of that then? You know, and it just goes and it progresses like that. It's basically like that, really. I know there's a lot of effort involved in learning and studying and thinking and contemplating. I did hours and hours of that, you know, over the years. And that's got a lot to do with it. But the basic nature of it for me was wanting to understand what the best is. And then that best turned out to be the true self.
And there's how many ways to the truth? There's a way through the heart, through the mind, and through the combination of both, right?
Kind of, yeah. I don't know whether if you're familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna explains that really well by suggesting that the three gunas, which those are, you know, the mind is yellow, the heart is red, and the body is blue. Yellow, red, and blue are the colors of the gunas, but they're just aspects of being. And there are those three paths associated with those issues. So you can work a lot, and this is a very difficult issue to discuss because it involves what's called what would you call that? A kind of sacrifice. It's a bit involved to explain if people aren't used to that idea, but the idea of sacrificing something, that you do something not for yourself. Yep. In other words, if I have a family and I personally don't really want to go to work, maybe I'm a lazy person. If I say to myself, no, I need to support my family, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. That is you sacrificing for other people. You're doing it not for yourself, you're doing it for them.
Right.
It's that kind of idea, you know? Nice. So if you apply that to looking for understanding or truth, I actually look for understanding because the world was a terrible state, and I thought people around me were seriously mentally ill. Do you see what I mean? Even the people that thought they were okay, I would see them as mentally ill because they didn't understand anything to any great depth, and I recognized that. Right? Yeah. So I thought, well, I really want to know what that depth is to understand why there's something wrong with them, and maybe I can sort that out. It was Definitely. Quite naive. I was quite naive in my youth about that. I thought it was quite easy to find the truth, and in a way it is, but it took me years.
Well, in today's setup, the way everything's convoluted and so confusing, and man has overcomplicated everything to the point where we don't know what anything is, because you got so many different perspectives, and maybe the whole veiled pearls before swine thing, all of that is for good reason, you know, and it's been there since the dawning of since we began, right? I mean, it's always been that way. Do you think it was that way back in the day?
I think things were better in the past when a pyramid was at the center of your community, because then you had the chance of learning about reality and truth if you wanted to. It was still your choice. It was your free will. It wasn't forced on you. Some people are more inclined to do that than others, let's say. But the biggest problem today is, one of the biggest problems is psychological warfare as well. Information warfare. Leading people down dark alleys just for the sake of keeping the chaos, so you can maintain a certain kind of society. You know, it's to order, so to speak.
Yes. Do you think that entropy increases as our system ages?
You're talking about physics?
Well, the physics of our just reality, how how things get more confusing, more checks and balances get put in place, and then there's more chaos introduced, and the more people, the more chaos, and so on and so forth.
That depends who's in power. The Russians and the Americans are in bed with each other. There's no question. On TV, they're not. They might look like not enemies, but competitors in a way in public, but they're all doing the same thing behind the scenes. All of them. There's a different level of society that is all unified in one big club that we have nothing to do with.
Why do you think that is?
To maintain the status quo in a way, and to make sure that nobody breaks through and changes what they've established. It may sound like I'm against the establishment, and I recognize the Freemasonic basis of Western society. It is based on the Hermetic principles, if you like, which it can be argued to be a good thing. But on the other hand, as I actually wrote this down in that second book that I wrote, that if you hide the truth in its occult form on purpose, pretending that nobody should look at that because it's silly, you're basically preventing people from understanding things that such that there'll be more equality in society.
No, yeah, I never looked at it that way.
They're literally maintaining a separation between the upper and the lower echelons of society. That is forcefully maintained. It's very obvious.
I've been studying that, and it brings me back to the one person I've ever heard you speak ill will of, and it was that person that was said to be buried in KV 55.
Oh, Akhenaten.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
No, why do you? That's the only time I ever see you act like that, man. Would you bring that name up? Why is that?
Because that was a turning point in history, a really major turning point.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
That's when everything got convoluted and turned on its head.
Yeah, because he did it as almost, I think it was done before, but he did it in a major way. So he changed a really important country into a country of imbecilic nonsense.
Right. Hey, what do you say to this? What do you say that maybe his lineage is the same that have the islands named after them off of Antarctica? What do you remember, huh?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, so I don't even want to say the name, you know what I mean? But so you're pretty much on par with that idea. Maybe that's the reason. Remember what we were talking about earlier about how you could hang on to your knowledge of your past? Maybe they knew that then. Yeah,
maybe you could argue that the people who have access to the kind of knowledge that I have access to are not illuminated, but they have access to the knowledge to the point where they can do things in their favor.
Yes.
Yeah, they could. That is easily plausible.
The lazy ones on the path, right? They just didn't want to complete it, so they knew of it and they adopted it and held it for. That's what the whole veiled concept is about, right? Do you think that's why things are supposed to be hidden for the profane not to set in discourse with it?
It's a question of greed and ignorance, in my opinion.
Okay.
These people are greedy and they have a certain level of ignorance. They think that they know things because they have access to the information. But there's a great distinction between someone who simply reads about it and someone who is that.
Yes.
That there's a huge distinction, because there's a great secret that I can't tell you because it's impossible to put into words.
Yes, I've been wondering what that great secret is, and I believe. Well, I don't believe. I think that you have it. You want to tell it, but you can't because of what you just said. It's undescribable, indescribable. It's not.
It's not just that it's undescribable. It's more that it would take me about a year to explain it to you.
I got a year. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it.
It has such depth that you cannot fathom that depth with words.
That's.
You see?
Would it have anything to do with the center of all things being the Anu, which is a cone of? Do you know what the Anu is? I mean, personally
I do, but I think of it in my way. Let's say.
Okay. Yeah.
But
How do you think?
that's not what I'm talking about when I say the secret. The secret is more about God and the
Right.
what it means to become one with God and to go beyond what we call physical, because what we're doing here is learning from an automatic system that surrounds us, that's indifferent. See, once you graduate that, you become you're in God's classroom and you are learning what it is to be God, and God generates the entire cosmos. So God sort of manages energy. You see, so you become a man, not in this life. When I go, I'll start to become a manager of energy and a creator of energy myself. Do you become like God?
Cosmic gardener.
Yeah, it's not just cosmic gardening. That's a very small part of it.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
So you become part of the back microwave radiation background, or the like energy of a star, or
no, not at all. All that stuff is physical. You're beyond what's physical.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you. I kind of figured that. I was just trying to lay it out there for people that are because so many people come at me with the physicality aspect of all this, and they like, where's Atlantis? To me, Atlantis is an allegory for our brain, our mind. That's to me, that's how I see it.
Right.
And I'm sure there's maybe a physical place on Earth. I don't know, but you know what I mean? How everybody comes at you with, well, this is that and this is that. Nibiru, for an instance, is a planet.
Yeah.
And the name of this podcast, our star is single, but it's double. Yet it's double.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Your title there makes me think of the Tree of Life straight away, as a tetrahedron.
Yep.
Because most people don't think the Tree of Life is a tetrahedron, but that's what it is. Even though there's 10 points, all you're seeing there is a delineation of the aspects of the tetrahedron, which is the Tree of Life. So there's only 4 points. There's not 10. There's 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is not taught. This is the part of it that's never taught or never spoken about. So people often have the Tree of Life over here with 10 points, and the concept of the tetrahedron over there is a separate idea, that they can't link the two together. But what they are the same thing. They're one and the same. So your singular is the top of the Tree of Life. Then there's dual.
Yeah.
That relationship is the foundation of the Tree of Life itself. When they join together, you have a 4th point, making the tetrahedron. And that's all it is. It's a relationship between the eternal and the transient, and having a halfway house between them, like a point of definition that has both at the same time. Yeah, which is the light.
The Nibiru point, right?
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, and I learned from you the Anunnaki description, or the Sky Father from heaven, or Sky Father on Earth.
Yeah.
And came over me like, whoa, that's it, because right. I knew it had something to do with sky and Father and heaven and earth, because of the epic of the creation of the heavens, or Atrahasis and all them other myths.
Yeah.
But I mean,
yeah, they're all the same. It's the same story over and over again. I was going to say the one of the things I found really interesting reading the Enuma Elish was that there's a reference to the Sky Father, which is Anu, and the idea is that Anu is literally in the sky, and it relates to the center of our galaxy, because the physics of it is absolutely fascinating, and it's being confirmed more and more that once you get to an event horizon of a supermassive black hole, you're in a timeless zone, and that the timeless zone is just outside the cosmos. So the inside of a galaxy and the outside of the cosmos are one and the same place or condition. It's exactly the same.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So if you're in the center of our galaxy, you are outside the cosmos. It sounds really weird.
Oh, it makes perfect sense to me now, because before I even met you, Phil, I came across that Anu information, and that Anu is the black hole. That's right. How I put it together. That whole concept of the ebb and flow of creation, and I think that's through that mechanism is what transforms the energy into the matter.
Uh-huh.
Right? Am I right on that?
Yeah, basically the creator, which is outside the cosmos effectively, is touching the inside of the cosmos at every galactic center. So he's having an effect inside the cosmos, even though he's outside of it. This is a very, very strange concept for the rational mind to grasp. It's automatic with illumination that you know this, but it's very difficult to put into words because I'd want to show you what's in my head, and I can't do that. You know?
Right, and
But
maybe that's why they spoke in pictographs before, right?
Yeah. I could show you what's called if anyone wants to look this up, they can look up an object called a Klein bottle. That's Klein, Klein.
Okay.
Okay, it's a single surface that folds through itself. It looks a bit like a mushroom or a jar, a jug. It's really weird looking, but it's a single surface. Like a Mobius strip in 3 dimensions.
Oh, cool.
You know, it's the same idea. So you have something that has 2 sides, but when you give it a half twist and rejoin it, it only has 1 side. So the duality has become singular. They relate to each other directly now. You know, it's a bit like God, while he's in the universe, creates a Mobius strip and rejoins himself. You know, this is absolutely along the lines of what happens.
Nice. And recently I put out a video too it was a 3 weeks ago, and I had a thought of our reincarnation cycle is sort of like the magnetic field, where you know, and then you could think of the whole relationship between God and physical as a magnetic field, because it's both finite and infinite at the same time, you know, because the reciprocating precessional hyperboloid that is a magnetic field is, you know, reciprocating and infinite, but in a finite construct. What do you think about that?
I think of magnetism and electricity as exactly the same thing in 2 opposite states, because I apply the yin-yang concept to everything now automatically. So if you do that with magnetism and electricity, you'll realize that they are one and the same thing, but electricity focuses, whereas magnetism expands or encompasses. So magnetism is like feminine and electricity is like masculine. But they're one and the same. Magnetism in a masculine form is electricity. Electricity in a feminine form is magnetism. There's only one thing, but it has these 2 opposite sides of its coin.
Right.
Yeah,
Isn't electricity a hybrid of dielectric and magnetism? Isn't that what electricity really truly is?
I guess if you want to get into the technical aspects of electromagnetism, yeah, you can talk like that. I did that at university in my 3rd year. And we talk about it in very different terms. It's all vector calculus when you get technical about it. That doesn't mean Ken Wheeler isn't correct.
How did you know it was from him that I heard that from?
Yeah. Well, I recognize what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with Ken Wheeler. A friend of mine pointed him out to me a couple of years ago, maybe a bit longer, no, about 5 years ago now, actually. 5 years ago. And I instantly recognized what Ken Wheeler was doing. Mm-hmm. He's looking at it in very simple terms so that anybody else can grasp it, and that's why he's on YouTube, to help other people understand. But when you get into maths at university, you have to use vectors to describe the direction of magnetic fields and what electricity is doing, its magnitude, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with that. So he's more of a let's look at what it's actually doing kind of guy, you know, without all the vectors and the maths.
Well, I love his concepts and his I just wish he didn't ignore me every time I'd ask him a question.
Oh, really?
Every damn time I ask him, because you know it's something huge usually, you know, and he ignores me, man, every damn time.
Man. Maybe he thinks that when you do that, he thinks, oh man, this guy should go and watch my video number 147 or something, you know, because he's already said it online.
Right.
But how much time you got to watch hundreds of videos from somebody, you know?
Right, exactly. But he's got like 5,000 of them. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a library there. That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
I like Ken Wheeler. His information is priceless. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think he's. I don't know if he's illuminated or not, but you know that's not.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yeah.
No,
He doesn't seem
definitely
like
not.
he's at ease in his own skin like you are. You know,
Right.
why don't you explain a little bit about that?
About what, dude?
How comfortable in your skin you are. I think you
Yeah.
did earlier, didn't you? Yeah, you did. You touched on that.
I didn't mention the level of peace you experience. Peace
Yeah.
itself. The peace of stillness is like absolute, and it totally relaxes you all the way into your deepest depth in your core, and that remains, that stays, is always there. It never leaves you, you know, because you've established yourself at one with it. You've unified with that. Therefore, you are that.
And in the realization of that, it puts you at ease, just complete bliss, or what?
Yeah, it's well, I don't have the flame going at the moment, but the sense is I'm in a cocoon of peace.
Explain that, what you just said. You don't have the flame going at the moment.
Yeah. So when you have the divine union, the first thing that happens is you lose all your body weight and you fall in love. And while that's happening, you're flying up into the sky, as far as you're concerned. And there's a flame, a cold flame going in your solar plexus and your heart area that rises as a column up to your throat at that time. And then after about 9 hours of this flame constantly going, it becomes like it's as if the flame is filling you up, as if you're in your own little sphere of bliss. And that remains, that never leaves you from then on, because what you're doing is you're engaging the higher chakras in the body to open the sixth chakra, which opens the seventh chakra as well, and makes all your chakras one. So once they become unified, you can't go backwards. It's like winning a set in a game of tennis. You can't not have the set once you've won it. You see what I'm saying?
Explain what you just said. Those words you just used. You cannot have the set. What did you just say?
You know, when you play tennis and you win six games. Let's say I win 6 games and the other guy's got 3 games. I win the first set. So in that match, I've got the first set. That will never be taken away from me.
Nice.
It's established that I have a set. Do you see?
Okay. Now I'm looking at that deeper. I'm looking at that deeper, though. You know, game. You know, the rise, life set. You know, I don't know why. I was just thinking that.
All I'm saying is once you establish the unity of your chakras, you don't have to do it again.
That was beautiful. That's perfect. That's a perfect analogy. Yeah.
That's right. So and the peace and bliss of stillness and truth is absolute. You can't get any more peaceful than absolute stillness. It bottoms out, you know? Right.
Mr. Menza asks, advice for those seeking enlightenment in today's day.
Yeah, recognize that God, what we call God, is your true self in the deepest part of you. So don't ever think of yourself as separate from it in the first place anyway. All you have to do is consciously find it. So looking for that is the best there is. So you're basically looking for the best there is in yourself. How can you be the best? How can you see reality for what it is, such that you recognize that you are an eternal being in the first place anyway? So, you know, if you don't choose to do this because you're scared you might die, if it helps lots of people, are you going to have the courage to go and do that? Because this is something people don't recognize or realize about the great work, or searching for this anyway. You have to show courage. And the only way you're going to have that courage is to have some learning in the first place and realization that you are an eternal being in the first place.
You have to just watch the movie Wizard of Oz and take it at face value, and then you'll start learning, right?
That film is pure symbolism for the great work.
Yes, yes, it is.
All the way through, everything.
Yeah, it took my good friend Runky Monkey, Jerry Runk, to point that out to me. Just I was like, because I watched that movie over and over as a child, and never even fathomed what it meant, but I never even fathomed why I was so hooked on it, but it just grabbed me over and over and over again.
Right. Oh, you recognize the archetypes.
Yeah, I must have. I had no clue until just recently, and
Right.
it's like, wow, it's just incredible how. And I just recently saw, like you could call it a B movie. It was called Shazam. It's this movie. Yeah, it's this movie of this kid that becomes a superhero, and he's fighting 7 demons, and it's just crazy, man. It's about the light and about how you have infinite power as a light being, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, the physical world around you, or you could almost say it's only there to prove it to you that you are part of, what we call God or the eternal. You are eternal anyway. But the question is, what is your awareness? What is your condition? Yeah.
I just had an epiphany. Do you think maybe our midlife crisis issue is dealing subconsciously with maybe not becoming illuminated by then? Do you think inherently? Go ahead.
Funny you should say that. I always thought that as well. I think that as well, because after a while, maybe when you're in your 40s and 50s, a lot of people, they do have midlife crises. And I think, like you, then, it's because they kind of remember in their youth they were going for something and life seemed to be going upwards, and there was lots of potential and promise for good things. And look what's happened. They're married. It's a bit boring now, maybe, that sort of thing. And you think, well, what is there in life for me other than growing old?
Right. And so, dying and being scared of death
Yeah, that's right. But there's no such thing. It's only the body that fails and stops working. You carry on as you are. You don't suddenly change when you die either.
Right. Yeah. You think that's why the Egyptians put stuff in their funerary, stuff they could use in the afterlife is symbolic of that you don't really change, or elaborate on that aspect for me, would you?
Well, that's a very difficult thing to talk about because the Egyptian culture lasted many thousands of years. And when you talk about that, the question is, what part of that time are you talking about? Are you talking about the later periods when ceremony had become entrenched and established to such an extent that people just did it automatically, thinking, well, this is going to, work well for the pharaoh that's died? And were they illuminated? Did they start just having a royal family where the real illumination doesn't exist anymore because it's just who is in the royal family? Well, that's not royalty anymore. It's just the commemoration of royalty, if you like. That's what that is. And that's what we have today. The commemoration of true royalty is illumination.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. That's where it comes from. That's why all the royal regalia, everything symbolic you see with royalty is illumination and the cosmic relationship. The knowledge of a god is expressed in royalty. I can see it now. I didn't see that before.
The purple and gold, right?
Yeah, all of it. Look at the king. He's wearing red and white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his gown is red and white. It's almost like he's Santa Claus.
That's
it's
symbolic of the light, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like he's become one with the light. He's become illuminated, so he can wear white and red because those are its colors.
Well, the story of Santa Claus is pretty much of the light, right?
Yes, same.
Yeah,
same thing.
Over and over and over again. What about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
That's right. It's exactly the same thing with the Bible. People don't realize that the entire Bible has a single thread running through all of it that is one thing, and it's the cosmic relationship, the knowledge of gods. That's what the Bible is about. Nothing more, nothing less.
Right. And everybody seems to think that it was the Bible's fault or God's fault that the Bible got so convoluted or dogmatic when it was just man that convoluted it in the first place. But you have another aspect to explain about that, where the Bible is not for the normal eyes to see, right?
It's not that it's not for regular people to read. It's that it contains such depth that if it's misinterpreted for you, and the establishment misinterprets it for you and establishes a misinterpretation, you will take it to be false. You'll take the Bible to be false if you reject what they're saying. You see,
Right.
so the Bible is all truth, but the people who are telling it to you have no idea what they're doing or what they're talking about. It is one of the saddest things I've ever seen.
Well, and that's due to human nature always wanting to be right, right?
Yeah, yeah, the arrogance of opinionation, of being opinionated. Yeah.
And seeking others pats on the back for your said ignorance or whatever you believe in, right?
Yeah, it sets up a mentality, doesn't it? You know, that everybody has to follow, and if you disagree with it, then you're an outcast.
Yes, very true, very true.
You know, which is unpleasant.
Right. So do you attribute the, I don't know if you've noticed, but this sort of esoteric learning and people therein, it's been increasing. And I don't know if you've noticed that, but do you have any sort of explanation, or do you have thoughts on why it's being like that? Or do you think it's just a part of the ebb and flow of creation?
You mean the number of people looking into the occult?
Into the occult, into all of this kind of knowledge, they're seeking. It seems like people are gravitating more towards the esoteric, and they're being less aggressive online and in comments, and people aren't really attacking like they used to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I would say about that. One is that because we have the internet, and the internet has developed for the last 30 years or whatever, people are getting used to it. There's the kids who were born when the internet started are very used to it, and they're taking over, as it were, and everybody's learning things because the information is now available. When I was a kid, I had to go to my local library, and they never had any books that I wanted to read. So I never had access to any information that was what I would call decent, which is basically why I went to university. Had I been born now with the internet, I wouldn't have bothered going to university. I would have learned maths online.
Nice. Right.
Really, because I never intended to get the degree to have a high mark to use it for anything. I did it to develop my thinking power and my ability to use logic and gain better understanding with definitive concepts. Not airy fairy stuff or stuff that I couldn't wrap my head around. That's one thing, the fact that the information is available and lots of people want to see stuff now. They're sick and tired of being told they can't look at something because it's bad for them or whatever, I think. The second thing is something that a lot of people won't know about. And I can't prove it, but I know it. And I only know it because of what came out of me after I had the illumination event. And you know about this, the hologram that burst out of my solar plexus.
Yep.
Yeah, surrounded my head, and only I could see it. And it was a crowd of people. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this crowd. And I immediately understood that all of them were not from Earth, but they're on Earth at the moment. So all those people are doing the searching and the looking as well.
And that's probably could be half of us on YouTube.
Yeah. I don't know how many there were. I didn't get a specific number, but the concept of the numbers of them that I got was an expression that was thousands and thousands and thousands. That was the expression that was used. So there's an overwhelming amount of people from elsewhere on Earth at the moment who kind of don't belong here.
Right, and a lot of people would say to what you just said that that's because you read the Bible and you've read of the 144,000, so it's your own mind. You know what I mean? They'd say that to you. I'm not saying that by any means, but
yeah, sure. No, it's got nothing to do with that. I wouldn't have believed it myself had this hologram not come out of my own solar plexus. Had that not happened, I wouldn't know about it. The only reason I talk about it is because of that event. It was such an overpowering event. I fell on the floor with the knockout blow of the impact that it had on me was overwhelming. I fell forward on my hands and knees, and I cried my eyes out for 15 minutes. The most intense crying, because I suddenly remembered why I was here, who I was, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Just like that, bang, just like that, all in one go.
And with that, you remember your past lives and all that?
No, I choose not to. That's not what came. What came was that I'm part of this crowd.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And how long was that, after or during or way before, or when was that in the culmination of the great work? Was it right there at the
No, it was
completion?
no. It was exactly 3 months after I saw the light.
3 months.
3 months, yeah. So for 3 months, I felt like I was on top of a mountain. I was going to work, but in my opinion, I was on top of a mountain. It's very hard to explain that to someone normally, because you know, if you're standing on top of a mountain, imagine that you can hear the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, imagine the wind and the quiet. There's nobody around. So that in your head, that's what you're like. After you see the light and you come back to your brain, you're at the back of your head. I think you're centered in the cerebellum now. Whereas before you're sort of all over the brain and doing whatever, but now you're focused on the cerebellum because the light has taken over the center, and you're in the back of the car now, as it were. There's someone else driving your car. There's someone else who's they've unified your brain, and it's much more powerful than it was.
Right.
So you just take a back seat and just sort of watch. It's a lot like that. It's really weird.
Cool.
It's weird.
That's the elongated brain above the skull analogy you were given earlier, or you've given me in the past, right?
You mean the rising of the top of the head?
Yeah.
The sensation is that your brain lobes are actually up here. So, and all this is taken up with your brain lobes. Yeah, you can actually feel as though you are occupying the space above your head. It's really strange. I think that's the unification of the chakras with a vortex coming out the top of your head.
The ultimate Anu.
Yeah, you can sense the space above your head as if it's part of you. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That is
effectively turning you into a phallus of truth in the darkness of not knowing, right?
That's basically right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The body is compared to a phallus when illumination is considered, because you are literally ejaculated, as it were, from your body upwards, as if your body's a phallus ejaculating sperm. Yeah, it's the same principle, but you got the speed of light.
I told everybody to put all caps in. That's why I keep looking down at my phone for questions, and they can't put all caps in. I was just informed because they're being censored. Because they consider that yelling on YouTube or on when you text. So yeah, right. Sorry, Crystal. But yeah, just write the question or the Q. Write a Q before the question, and I'll figure it out. Sorry. That's funny. But yeah. Here. Tell us. Okay, I showed Phil. I haven't talked to Phil since I've been doing the light motif in my videos. And he was like, what is that? What is that? Explain. Let's go through what our conversation was before with that. I mean, what's your response to that right there?
That looks almost exactly like the cloud of light with its beams, that are much longer than the actual cloud. It looks the same. You've even got like two beams, as I see it now. There are two beams protruding from the front that have an angle between them. They're going out like that. So if you put yourself in front of the left-hand beam at the end of it and look towards the light, imagine that's basically what it's like when you see it, when you turn around to see it. That's really weird. And the light, the beams splay out like that as they come out. Yeah, they always go out. Like the cross of the Maltese cross or something.
Cool. Yeah, I just when I really, but do you have any thoughts on why we can't see the light like that through our regular eye, only through a camera?
It's got to be to do with the probably the lens, I would say, and the way light is refracted.
Right.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's funny because normally when I see somebody who films the sun in the sky, there are normally six extensions coming off it. The number 6 is very prominent with lights normally, or a star. If they film a star or a planet, you can see 6 beams coming off it. So I was so surprised when you said that's the light, because it's literally a cross of beams.
Cool.
I've never seen that before. From a light on a camera. That's really weird. It's great.
How does one stay for 9 hours? I don't know what she means by that, but Angel's asking that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's when I mentioned earlier that I was a flame for 9 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to think about that. All you need to think about is focusing on stillness. To find heaven and God, you simply become the same state that it is, and it is at rest. So you need to literally stop worrying about stuff. Yeah, relax your mind completely, relax your body, be in a very comfortable environment, be very happy in yourself, think of good things, think of the highest things, and focus on stillness. I believe a technique would be to look at the sun towards sunset and really focus on the sunlight coming out of the sun, forgetting everything else. So what you focus on, you become. So you become one with still light. When you do that, when you bring your mind to that same condition that it is that, you become one with it and you unify with it and you become aware of it directly. And then you'll find God in that stillness because he's right there. I say he, it's not he or a she. You know, it's just a terminology. God is beyond all that. God is your true self, so you'll recognize it. And when you have unification, that true self will come to you and literally enter your body and become one with you, and then you'll lose all your body weight in a few seconds, and the flame will start by itself. You don't even have to think about it or worry about it. You become the flame. It's absolutely undescribably beautiful.
That cold fire of truth that you're speaking of is spoken of in the Emerald Tablets. And it's at the heart of Earth too. It's at the heart of Earth. It's at the heart of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. You could go into that way of looking at the creation. Yeah, it's at the heart of everything, as it were. As if the Earth and its chakras are already complete. And so the next level of the Earth's what do you call it? What's that word?
Evolution.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Words escape me, man. Words escape me.
Well, hey, it's hard when you got all this floating around in your head to keep on. You know, me especially, I've got ADD, so I can't stay focused on one subject for more than 5 seconds, man.
That's all right. It's not that. It's the after illumination, your brain doesn't want to know words.
Yeah, explain that. I heard you say that in it because I was rewatching a couple of your videos recently, and I heard you say that, and I think it was in the Apocryphon of John video. You said that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you compare being in a nursery school to being in a university, illumination is God's university, as it were. And when you look back at where you were, you think, well, I used to use words. Now I don't need to.
Cool.
The only reason I use words is to talk to others. I don't bother with words anymore. It's really strange. It's all become what word can I use for that? See, I have a problem even finding a word for this. It's not just visual. It's in the concept of being. Being has how do I say that? I'm fully aware of the being that is greater than creation, let's say. Right. I don't know how else to say it. So everything's there at once, and you just look over there. There's that aspect, and over there, there's this aspect. It's like looking at a fractal, or you got everything all at once. Yeah. As if the fractal represents the development cycle of something you can only see in time, bit by bit. Now look at it all at once. Right? That's now the mentality you've got.
Yeah, you can see the whole instead of just a compartmentalized part of the whole.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah, that's it.
Gotcha.
That's it. And it's automatic.
Awesome. Gerald has a question. How do you feel about heart coherence?
What do you mean?
What do you mean by heart coherence? I think by the maybe the coherence between your physical surroundings in your heart, or I don't know exactly.
Does it mean between two people? Because I'm thinking of how people relate to each other when I hear that for some reason. I don't know whether he means that.
Probably because Co's in there. I don't know. But he'll come back. With the brain. heart coherence with the brain. That's the key, isn't it? I mean, you have to.
Right. I don't know whether he knows Kabbalah, because there's a lot of that in Kabbalah. You can learn a lot of that. In Kabbalah they talk about the heart being the secret associated with Eve, and the brain is associated with the secret of Adam.
And that's the Adam Cadman of the Kabbalah, right?
Yeah, yeah. You become the Adam Kadmon yourself, but if you think that you have 7 chakras, and the middle one is the sort of halfway mark that you need to rise above in your life. So during life, the first half of your life, you engage the lower 3 chakras all the time. Yeah, the sexual, the eating, yeah, and the physical doing in life. But when you have this experience, you engage now all the higher chakras. So then your heart unifies with your brain. But during your life, your brain is trying to go down and link with your heart. And if your intention is of a certain kind, you will try and rise to match your heart with your thinking, your brain. From the top, it reaches down. From below, it reaches up. And they try and meet in the middle.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's like the depiction of it in front of the Louvre, right there at that museum, right? With the 2 pyramids about ready to touch. It's the same as the spark gap between spiritual and physical, right?
How weird. I was thinking about that yesterday for the first time.
I think about that every day.
It's strange. That's the first time I thought about the Louvre in 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, yesterday. And now you talk about it. How funny is that?
Well, that's
synchronistic.
Perfect synchronicity, divine synchronicity. I mean, it just proves.
That's basically what you got there. You got the little pyramid on the ground, and you got the greater pyramid that's inverted with the 2 tips touching. Mm-hmm. Just touching at the center of all things. Yeah. Yes, you got the heavenly, the ineffable, and you've got the finite below. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same where God's reaching out in the creation of Adam painting, about ready to touch Adam. That's the same concept, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's like heaven and earth meet. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the finger touch. Yeah, that's right.
And recently, the Fibonacci sequence, the first 2 ones in it are the physical and the spiritual, and 1 and 1 make 3. I came to that conclusion recently. Like, wow, that's kind of weird, you know? What do you think? On your path, did you encounter synchronicities and aha moments like that, one right after another?
Yeah, not all the time. Not all the time. There were great periods where nothing seemed to happen, and I got really bored, and I thought, this isn't working. I'm not getting anywhere.
That happened to me.
Right. So I'd be looking around. What can I look at? What can I look at to increase this process, to speed it up? What's next? What's next? So then I might find something I read for years before and think, oh my God, I didn't read this properly last time. Now I can see something else in this, So it's always good to go back and retrace your steps as well.
Right. It's like the preface to the Emerald Tablets says, if read it 100 times, even if you don't understand it, read it 100 times. And every time I go back to it, I see something new.
Yeah, there's another issue as well. If you don't fully understand something, don't give up on it. Don't give up. Just keep going. Look at it again. Wait a few days. Look at it again. Wait a month. Look at it again. Keep going. Whenever I was solving problems in mathematics and I couldn't do it, I said to myself, no, do not give up. I'm going to figure out how to solve this problem. And it was always some little thing that I just didn't know at the time. I thought, oh, is that all it is? My God. That's easy. That's simple. It's just a question of knowing.
Right.
It's never going to bamboozle you to the point where you can't do it. You'll always be able to just find a way. There always is a way. And it's often something that's really weird or you haven't thought of yet that expands your understanding in the process.
And I've asked you this question before. You had a sign come to you right before you were illuminated. What was that?
Yeah, I went outside about 3 weeks before. I went outside to smoke a cigarette outside my front doorstep, and we're on a first floor flat. And there's a little porch roof above our front door. And as I was sitting out there on the step, I heard a little noise above my head, and I looked up, and there were 2 owls sitting there looking at me, just staring at me. 2 owls. I've never seen owls before in my life, ever. and now there's two right above my head. They're just staring at me, not moving. It's so weird.
And when you do see an owl, you don't see them in pairs, usually.
Right. Yeah. There were two sitting right next to each other. Yeah, like a couple.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And then if you go and you look at a lot of the cave paintings of look like aliens, in my opinion, I think an owl represents wisdom, knowledge, and the magnetic field itself. That's how I see it anyway. But yeah, right. And the black hole even maybe.
It extends all the way out to those principles. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You can extend it into that, no problem. They're related to each other.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, you will see things. You will have little signs and synchronicities that help you realize that you can get there. Because I was looking for things that verified that I was doing the right thing and not just wasting my time. Because I was sacrificing a lot of things in my life, to be able to do this. I felt it's only because nobody else did it before. If there was an example for me to follow, I'd just go straight to them and learn from them, and I wouldn't have bothered maybe going to university and doing that or doing this. Do you see what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I just had nothing else to go on, so I just did everything that I could.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because I sacrificed a day of hard labor today at work to talk to you.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to say sorry, man. It's a vacation for me, and I just hope the guy I work for doesn't see this, because then he'll be like, "Oh, you son of a bitch," But yeah. No, the treadmill of life is rampant and drives us to search for money and gold and whatnot, and the true gold is what?
Yeah, understanding is the true gold, because it releases you from the grind.
Why don't you speak on that grind and the aspect of how our Creator is an indifferent Lucifer, devil, Satan, and then turns into Jesus, the Redeemer, the light.
Yeah, because it's the beginning and the end of the same process. At the beginning, it's a thing that has to automatically create the indifferent surrounding that teaches you the nature of reality. So nature is our teacher, basically. It's an automatic teacher. You can learn about the galaxy and the cosmos as a whole just by looking at a tree. It contains exactly the same nature. So the single nature of a cycle from a seed to a new seed is what's repeated throughout the cosmos at every single scale. That principle, that progress and that process, and that's an automatic thing. So the Creator must be an automatic thing itself, and being automatic, it's gonna generate an indifferent structure that is egotistical based. It's going to be selfish automatically, but because we are spirit engaging with that. There's a dichotomy in everybody's psyche, as if we have an angel and a demon on either shoulder. So when you hit illumination, the demon disappears and another angel appears. So you've got two angels on your shoulder now. There's no more demons. They're all gone. They can't touch you anymore. So I just as a side note, I really want to go ghost hunting with a crew, because I want to see the reaction of these spirits. Because they're going to know, they're going to be able to see that I have the light and I'm a bright light in the room, and they're going to freak out, I think, and run a mile. That's what I want to find out, if that's true. So yeah, there's this dichotomy in us that the spiritual is going. Your awareness is spiritual, but your processing thinking is psychic. Is your psyche, the brain, and that they have different. What's that word? Agendas. Aspects? They have different agendas.
Oh, okay.
So because the Creator has generated this automatic psyche, the agenda of the psyche is to work for itself, is to do everything, think about its own self, its self-survival, its self-preservation.
It makes you become egotistical and fight your ego.
Yeah. So if you don't look beyond that, you'll only stay in that zone, in that awareness, and you'll become more and more like that, because you become what you think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the whole. Yeah.
So you could say in a way that the job of a human being is to bring forth their spiritual to the max, to override the physical. Yeah. So
And you do override the physical and become above the creator, and in aspects of you're out of that washing machine or automatic cycle, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. You gain control over your incarnation. Yeah, full control. Yeah. So
now, does that mean you can come back to this place and incarnate and still hold on to the memory of what you are, or no? That's impossible.
Wait a second. In what context? Are you talking about a regular person that dies without illumination?
No, you, like, say you wanted to come back here after you pass or transition, and you want to come back here. Do you think you can hold on to Phil Langdon?
Right. In my opinion, it would depend on why I would be here.
Okay.
It would depend on that. For instance, in this life, if I've been a cosmic gardener before, you would have thought I would be born with the memory that I was a cosmic gardener. But I have no memory of that, but I have lots of it floating around in my head all my life. So the way I see myself is that I have long hair to my shoulders, a very thin beard, very neat and tidy thin beard, kind of like I have now, and I wear a jumpsuit.
Really?
You know, like a skin-tight suit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's your self-portrait of yourself in your mind's eye.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always seen myself like that. Yeah. That's my self-image.
Wow. I've never sat and reflected on how I see myself like that. Maybe I shouldn't.
Right. Yeah. So when I look at myself in the mirror and I see myself in the screen, I think to myself, my God, that's not me. Other people see that. That's not what I see. I know myself not like that. You see, so it's a bit weird. It's a bit there's a little bit of disassociation with physical life on Earth. Me mentally, I don't associate with it.
Not anymore. You don't, right? I mean,
well, especially not now, but in particular before, I thought everybody else was wasting their time, and I was doing the right thing.
Isn't that how everybody feels, though?
Right. That's a good point.
It is, though. I mean, that's what I think when you align yourself with belief, and without really knowing, I think that's what gets humans in trouble in the wars and whatnot. Right?
Yeah, emotional attachment to concepts and ideas. Yeah.
Mr. Menzo's got a question. He says, do you think you can come back at different points in time, i.e. the past?
Yeah. See, gaining control over your incarnation means you can go to any point in history as well. Time, you're above the concept of time as well, which is a physical thing. Time is involved with the physical, so you're above the physical. So anything to do with the physical, you're beyond it, and you are greater than it, so that you can. Yeah, you can. I could, let's say, I could incarnate if I so chose into 1890. In what, Philadelphia or something. It's entirely up to you.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So can you see the kind of freedom you gain from this as well?
Oh yeah. Well. When you gain that freedom, okay, let's finish that thought about the Lucifer and the Jesus concept of the creator.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry, I beg your pardon. We always move on, don't we?
Yeah. Okay. I've got to pat myself on the back for coming back because I don't usually do that.
Yeah. So as a creator, that light is indifferent, and you have no control over it. You're subject to it because it made you physically. It gave you the ability to join as a spirit, to come in and have the ability to find heaven yourself. So even though it's the devil, it has a sort of decent connotation to it. It has an association with the finding of heaven as the devil. But then when you do find heaven and meet your true self and reproduce that light, if you're the one who's made that light because you've understood what makes it, you are higher than it. Yeah, you become greater than it. And it becomes the unifier of your psyche here while you're on your still body, and therefore the redeemer of your psyche, because you now have access to all spiritual wisdom.
And that spiritual wisdom just comes to you from every angle at every point.
It's basically automatic. Yeah, I would I'd compare it to stepping out of a boat onto another shore. So the work getting to spiritual wisdom is like riding a boat across a river that's going at 90 degrees to you, and you've got to fight your way to get to the other shore because you're going to be swept down the river otherwise. So when you step out of the boat, you don't need the boat anymore. That the boat was the knowledge you gained and gradually understood and transformed yourself as a result of your greater understanding. But now you step out of the boat, you have spiritual wisdom that inherently contains all of that knowledge anyway.
That just, when you said that, Nibiru popped into my mind again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's usually to do with rivers or a ferryman or, you know.
That's right. The crossing of rivers. Yeah, that's right.
That word Nibiru is what triggered me to eventually be talking to you today, because if it wasn't for that back in 2015, I'd still be chasing whatever it was. And I felt, before that, I felt empty. After that, after I started doing the Nibiru research, I felt scared. Like I had to prep. I bought $2,000 worth of food. I got all kinds of food ready in my house and water and all this, which is now bad. Yeah, I got to throw away. But I mean, it's just, it's kind of like a microcosm of the whole show that, you know, you can prepare for everything, but until you're illuminated or until you find your true calling or the truth, it's all for naught, right?
It can be, yeah. I mean, if somebody wants to spend their time taking care of their physical situation to the point where they ignore the spiritual nature that they have, that they're going to basically make themselves a prisoner of their own ignorance. In a way, you know, you become your own prisoner. So really gaining understanding is gaining your freedom. So you're no longer in the prison. That this basically your psyche is keeping you a prisoner as well, because it doesn't know. You know, it doesn't know that secret, and until it does, it won't be opened, and you won't be free, truly free for, you know, forever, and in control of what goes on with you.
That's an awesome analogy. But yeah, anybody else got any questions? Because the center of our brain is the Red Sea. Is it their reflection? Is there reflective mercury between the yin and the yang? I don't know what that means, but I was reading. Have you read Fulcanelli and the Secrets of the Cathedrals?
Fulcanelli is a name I recognize. I'm not familiar with the Secrets of the Cathedrals, though. I can sort of guess what you're talking about straight away anyway, but say more, man.
No, he just, the beginning, the preface to the book, you know, I just got into reading it. I haven't read many books in my life, you know, and I think that's half the reason why I can discern thing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I get information from places that I don't even know where it comes from sometimes, just out of the blue, like the synchronicities we were talking about. But the Fulcanelli, he speaks of the architecture and how this secret of the fire, of the inner fire, of the light is hidden in plain sight for everyone to see, and it's always been there.
That's right. Yeah. So if I stand inside a cathedral, I can explain everything in the cathedral to you. Yes. Even though I've not taken a course in it or had a lesson in it, I will recognize everything that's been put up automatically. Yeah. Every sacred building basically represents the cosmic relationship, which is the knowledge of God's. That they always do that. It's just a repetition of the same thing, even if they look different. There are many ways of expressing it, you know? Right.
Crystal's got a question here that she's trying to get out, and I skipped, so I apologize if I don't want to seem rude looking down at my phone while you're talking. I'm just trying to get the question here.
That's right. I understand. I know that. That's right.
All right. Cool. I want to kind of explain it to other people too, because they're like, he's not even paying attention to him. Why is he, you know? You know, no, what is it, Crystal? Ask me here. I'm going to go back. Thoth, Aman. Oh, damn. Hang on. I'm going through her comments. She's talking about her kids. What are you going to ask me the question again, Crystal, so I can give it to him, please? I don't want you to feel left out here by any means. But yeah, what are your feelings on DMT? Somebody asked.
DMT, I've been asked that many times, man.
I bet.
Yeah, no drug is ever going to substitute meeting your true self. You know, that's a natural event that you don't need to take drugs for. If you're going to take drugs, DMT, you can have experiences. You can learn from them. You know, they're going to have some sort of benefit. But DMT, I don't know what you can learn from DMT other than you can say I've had an expansive experience. I've never heard anyone who's taken DMT describing that light. You know, they don't see it because it's the product of an actual spiritual union, which you can't fake. So taking drugs isn't gonna do anything in those terms, really. You can gain an educational experience from taking drugs, as I have. I've taken LSD in my time, eaten mushrooms, you know, smoked weed. What else have I taken? Not much. I tried cocaine years ago a couple of times, but I wasn't really into that sort of thing. And that's about it, really. I thought acid was very interesting. You know, I quite enjoyed that until I had an almost bad trip once where I had to drink a liter of orange juice to cancel it out.
Wow, man! You know how much our paths mirror each other on that? Because
Really?
I used to do acid a lot when I was younger, and
Right.
I tried saving a guy that fell off a scaffold or fell off a roof and he died. You know, and I gave him mouth to mouth.
Oh,
And
shit.
after that, I tried it again, and I couldn't do it after that because
Oh,
that imprint was in me after that, where I
yeah.
could think of it was giving him mouth to mouth and his eyeballs and all this other stuff. You know, I
Oh
mean.
my gosh. Poor thing. That's
And it was
bad.
right
Yeah.
before Christmas, and it was yeah, it was hell. It was just
Oh man.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's got the answer now, just like you do, Phil.
Who's got the answer?
That guy who fell and died, you know, he's got
Oh, I
the answer,
see.
but he won't have it when he comes back unless he's, Oh, speak on that. You have to be incarnate in the Ka to reach the Ba, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The best analogy for that is the idea of a lotus flower growing out of mud. Yeah.
Okay.
The cosmos that you experience is referred to as the tree of good and evil in the book of Genesis, and the creator light is referred to as the tree of life. And these are the only two things in Eden. So in order to create the tree of life, you have to be in the tree of good and evil and experience good and evil. There are angels and demons in the cosmos. Know that's the case. It's very important that people recognize that some are not all people are good, not all people are bad. There's good and bad. And from this difficulty, this is what's called the Great Tribulation. The experience of being on earth and having a life in physical terms is referred to as a great tribulation because it's hard work. You know, it's hard on your emotions, it's hard on your psyche, etc., etc. But from that work comes the greatest. So you learn how to fashion a diamond from clay as an educational experience to teach you how to be like God.
So what you're saying is our carbon footprint can be so compressed to shine like a diamond in the sky.
If you want to put it like that, yeah.
Because we're carbon beings, man, and that's what a diamond is, right? It's
Right.
compressed
Yeah.
carbon.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
It's a metaphor, but it's a good metaphor.
Yeah. Crystal's got an aspect of what you just described there, and she's got a question. So, how will our awakening affect change of the abuse of power? Will our awakening evict the parasitic controller grip of this reality, or do you think it's a necessity?
Well, to be honest, that's why all the people came here. That's basically what we're doing here. That there's a serious problem on the planet, and it has to be addressed. There's a separation now, a great separation between those who have that sort of control, but it's not real control. It's just control of the local environment, as it were. They have control over the finances of the planet, the military-industrial complex, etc., etc. And the idea that why we've done this, it's a really good idea, I think, because if you imagine there's all these people on planet Earth, and then all of a sudden, instead of regular people being born to those people as their children, all of a sudden, loads of angels and extraterrestrials are being born to those people. And now there's going to be more of us than them. And we will affect this place greatly. We're going to have the biggest effect on this planet it's ever known. See, and it'll take a little while to come out, but I can see it coming out already, and it's starting to blossom. When people gain their personal sovereignty and power and start realizing how the wool has been pulled over their eyes, then there will be a change. But all those people have to deal with their own psyche first and sort themselves out. And once they're sorted out, all the answers are available. And when there's enough of us, it's kind of automatic. we kind of overtake everything and just take over and reestablish sense and sensibility in a world literally gone mad.
And let's be clear here. You don't think that any politician or part of the system is going to be any leader of any said parasitic removal, right? I mean, you don't think any part of the system is going to, that is the you know what I'm saying there, right? Well,
to be honest, our kind are going to be born into every single kind of situation there is on this planet to uproot or to have, imagine a new shoot.
Okay.
Imagine a field of grass where all the grass in the field is getting a bit old and tired. And then we have new shoots coming up and they become the grass of the field. It's basically like that. We're basically just taking over the planet in simple terms, in the most effective way that we can.
So you're saying, yeah, maybe possibly somebody could be born into a political relationship with, okay, so yeah.
So imagine, let's just say the Rothschilds, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a new child, that child could be one of us.
Oh, that'd be just wonderful.
Because the intention of that person then is very different from the environment they find themselves in. It might be difficult at first, and they might go along with the program for a while, but the internal nature of that person will come forth. It will. It's done it with me. If it happens to me, it can happen to anyone. It's going to happen to all of us in the next few years. That's partly why I'm online, trying to get a presence online to be someone like a way shower.
Mm-hmm.
Like a reminder not to get embroiled in all the bullshit that flies around on this planet, and to remember the sense and the reality of truth.
This is the main reason why I wanted to talk to you again, was because of all of this. What we're finally getting at, is how you see the world and what turmoil we're causing ourselves or allowing to be caused upon us via the tell lie vision and all of that nonsense that, like you were saying, how the Russians and Americans are just the same. They were just in cahoots and just, at the top of the pyramid. But I appreciate that. That was awesome, because I've been wanting to know what you thought about that for a long time now. And we got another question from Yeshua 111. Metonius asks, Phil, how do we approach inner shadow work?
Right. How can I put that into words? Very briefly, I did a lot of that work by learning from Bruce Lee. That may sound very strange, but I studied Bruce Lee intensely and his philosophy that comes from Taoism, and I applied that to myself, because the word Kung Fu, which is Gung Fu, actually means self-work. And it is shadow work. It's the idea that you're working on your ignorance. You are, in fact, I was reading just yesterday a statement by Krishna about this very point, in that in the face of spiritual wisdom, all ignorance disappears. So what you're doing is looking for the wisdom that's already known. so that you can acquire it and know it for yourself, and it is available. So if you read the Bhagavad Gita and the Corpus Hermeticum, for instance, you've got spiritual wisdom at your fingertips, and it will affect you. It automatically will affect you, and you'll compare it to who you are, how you see yourself. And by doing that, you're automatically doing shadow work, because you're shining a light on yourself. And when you shine a light on yourself, you see where all the muck is. Do you see what I mean? Doesn't mean you have to be perfect, you know, like saintly or stuff like that. I've never been like that myself. It's just your number one intention to gain understanding and spiritual wisdom that drives you into looking at your own issues one by one or bit by bit, you know, and your experiences, the way you behave, the way you react to other people, is a sign of how deep you are, how deeply you are going towards your true self. Because if you suddenly blow up at everybody all the time and you're stressed out, you're not looking for your inner peace, as it were, and your inner understanding. You're simply reacting to events around you that are immediately there, you know, which is a very shallow experience. You see what I mean? So you're trying to have a deeper experience of your own being and to know what the core of your being really is. And it is realistic, that core of your being. It's not some airy-fairy pipe dream that I'm just inventing or making up to make it, you know, to give you a sense that things are better than they really are. And oh my God, they're terrible, really. And I don't want to say so. You know, just because things are terrible physically, it doesn't mean that things can be terrible for you personally.
Right.
So your shadow work is basically you gaining the understanding that allows you to see your own problems.
Isn't that the same as the pyramid analogy with the clay bricks, pyramid capped understanding analogy? That's pretty much what a pyramid is telling you. That's the same situation, right?
With the pyramid, I would say that it's more about gaining the spiritual knowledge and focusing on that. You obviously, the pyramid doesn't contain your shadow self.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
That's where I went wrong with that analogy. Yeah, okay.
That's okay. I know you're trying to say there, but yeah, the pyramid represents spiritual wisdom and knowledge that you can use to compare with yourself and see how you compare, to see how much better it is than you, or whether you are approaching that kind of decency.
That's say. Where that came up in my mind, was to compare the information in yourself to something and have something to gain measure from, is why I was.
Yeah. So you need something to go on, you know, some example, like a role model, or like I used Bruce Lee as my role model when I was in my teens.
Hey, here's some kudos for you. Gerald says that is the best explanation of shadow since Carl Jung.
Oh. Good.
I knew you would appreciate that one.
That's cool. So it makes sense, you know.
Right. It does. It makes logical sense. But yeah, any last words that you could give anybody that is, you know, people are lost right now in the negativity of our reality right now, and how things are, how the earth is responding, how, you know, everything's heating up, the poles are melting, you know, the whole mess of our own creation that we find ourselves in. We've made our bed and we're lying in it. How do you, what could you say to people when they're just stuck on that whole environmental and political whatever mess, you know, the state of our world? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of things I could say about that. Lots of different little points here and there. Ultimately, realize that the physical level is only an educational level. That's all it is. It's just an education. It doesn't mean that if the world, you know, collapses or something, that it's the end of everything and the universe is going to collapse as a result, and all this sort of thing. You know, planets get destroyed in the cosmos. I'm afraid that these things do happen because of energy mechanics, and there's not a lot you can do about it. With this situation, with the global warming, we can do something about it. The problem on Earth is the attitude towards finance and acquisition and greed. If we can elevate the realization of people that there is a spiritual level, and not have such a rationalistic, scientific presence in media. See, the media is controlled, and that is the problem as well, because it gives you the impression things are much worse than they really are as well. Their psychological warfare that I mentioned earlier is ongoing. It is in your face. There'll be people on YouTube that you'll watch that are kind of like the kind of people you watch that tell you good things, but they'll lead you down a dark alley while seemingly telling you what sounds realistic. But there's a lot of bullshitters out there who are doing it paid. They're paid to do this. They're paid to lead you down a dark alley. Yeah, it's a psychological war, an information war that is going on, and it's all for the benefit of those who make money. So the issue is the making of money. If we can expand the understanding of the spiritual aspect of reality, but because I show people the light, what I'm really telling them is the light proves that spirit is real. But science will tell you that spirit is a fabrication of our imagination to make us feel better about death. You see, the nonsense of that concept. That light proves that there is physical and spiritual, because it is spiritual and physical at the same time. And it can't exist if there's no such thing as spiritual. See, that's the main reason I show people that light, for that particular point, to spread the word that spirit is real. Because these financial groups with the media under their belt are feeding us the scientific, physical point of view that it's all billiard balls in space and we're all screwed, and there's nothing we can do, blah, blah, blah. There's tons of things we can do. The suppression of technologies is a big issue as well. Let's just make the technology anyway, and excuse my French, but fuck these people.
I love
nobody,
it.
I don't mean to swear, but nobody can stop you from doing these things. All you need is the information. So the information is what we need to get, and that's part of what I'm doing at the moment as well, getting that technical information to make an object that can produce lots of energy for you in your house, for instance, without having to go on the grid. Eventually, if everybody has these, if everybody makes them from household objects and stuff like that, the grid will have no choice but to give in, because we're all making our own energy. We have no need for them. They'll dissolve and diminish into a nothing, and they'll dissolve.
You're actually working on a machine, or trying to get
the principles of it. Okay, what exactly we should do, and in simplistic terms as well, because if you think about people who want spaceships, if you listen to Bob Lazar, who I think is genuine, the methodology of floating and hovering that spaceship is very different from other methodologies that can be employed and found by people like us. That uses a material that we don't have access to. So it's impossible for us to reproduce that. Therefore, we should look at better other things. There are always lots of solutions, not just one, when it comes to energy mechanics, And in terms of global warming, we can, what can we do in those terms? See, I think it's better, because of the scale of the problem, it's better to focus on the spiritual issues and go around it and come back to it from above, as it were. People are trying to grab hold of it when it's right in front of them. But I think if we go around behind it and take it by surprise, we'll overcome it. The Earth can handle pretty much a lot of things. I was actually watching a program yesterday on Netflix, just before going to bed, about the nature of the atmosphere and how it reacts with the ocean and all this sort of thing. And our ocean can soak up a lot of the carbon dioxide that's causing some of the problem. But the real problem on Earth is this greed with finance, the mentality. If we can change and get people to open their mind about what's spiritually more useful than thinking in terms of acquisition. Do you see what I mean? If we can change that, you'll change the world.
Yeah, isn't that pretty much
other things we can do apart from physically attacking things or trying to physically control things? It's about opening up the doors of knowledge and understanding, I think, because they've been closed and they're getting more and more closed and sullied with psychological warfare to get you confused.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
That's hey, you know what? That's pretty much apart from how you explained the last part. I pretty much mulled everything you just said over in my mind, and pretty much came to the same conclusions. You know, except for the analogy of attacking it or sneaking up on it. You know, and right away that it's like you got to lasso the bull from behind instead of grabbing it by the horns. So yeah.
I just think it's important for people to understand things clearly so that they know that the decisions they're going to make and are making are actually useful.
Nice. So, hey, Phil, I want to thank you very much, brother. If anytime you want to come back on, man, I'll make time for you no matter what time it is, where it is, when it is, because talking to you is priceless. I mean, I'm very happy. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I'm really happy to talk about anything like this. You know, it just makes me very happy that I can actually, you know, do something useful.
Well, if nothing else, you've moved me to a point to where I feel hope for my future, and I'm starting to teach my kids this stuff now and trying to get through to them that, you know, there's way more to life than what you see in front of you and what you see on TV, kids. You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I have a large part of that. I have you to thank for.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a normal part of it. You know, you do the same. Once you get there yourself, you do exactly the same.
Well, I'm trying to do it now without even really knowing, but you know, that's the whole. You know,
that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. You can do a large part of it anyway. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, and anytime you're welcome back, and I'm sure everybody here would appreciate it as well. So.
Sure. Bless you all.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, we'll be all right. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
we'll be fine.
Definitely.